We've seen more terrible scenes where people kill their demonstrators. But they call themselves Democrats, and we're called Persians. If that's democracy, I repeat, we don't want this democracy.
Smash the like button, follow, comment, and share to expose these bloodsuckers. Stand up and join the fight now.
You know, people ask me many times, why are third world leaders corrupt? I mean, every country in Africa has leadership problems. Every country in the Caribbean has leadership problems. You know why? It's simple. I figured it out. It's very simple. Why are there so many lack of great leaders in your country among black African people? Or even Mexicans, the Asian people? Why is there such lack of leadership in these formerly oppressed countries? Here's why. Because the oppressor did not do what Jesus said. He made sure you never knew what he knew. Now, these are very interesting people, you know. They're interesting. Here's what they do. They say, okay, we ain't going to teach you nothing that we know. So all we're going to teach you is how to grow cane and cotton. Pick cotton, that's all you have to do. Go get water. That's it. You don't need to know anything else, they say. And so for 294 years, you become an expert cotton picker, an excellent cane cutter. But the problem is, he doesn't teach you how to make the cane into sugar. He doesn't teach you how to turn the cotton into cloth. He keeps that to himself. After a while, you become unruly because you multiply. And so you tell him, there's more of us than you. We're going to kill you if you don't let us go. So he does something very simple. Every single situation is the same. He said, okay, I don't want to fight you. I don't want to fight you. Tell you what, you could have the cotton field and you could have the cane because I don't want to fight you. I'm gone. And he leaves. So here you are. You call yourself free now because you got a cotton field and a cane. The problem is he trained you to wear clothes and to drink tea with sugar. You didn't hear what I just said. That's too deep. He conditioned you to wear his clothes and to drink tea with sugar. And he leaves you with a sugarcane field and a lot of cotton. Sharp guy. They're smart. After a few years, you begin to realize, I can't wear cotton and I can't put cane in tea. So he comes back and he says, what's your problem? You say, look, I can't turn cotton into cloth. He said, okay, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy the cotton from you at my price because you can't use it. So you can't set the price because you can't use it. I'll tell you how much I'm going to buy it from you for. I'll buy the cane, you cut it at my price. So they take it away and they turn it into cloth and sugar. Then they come back to you and they sell you the sugar at their price and the cloth at their price. And here you are now, instead of being directly oppressed, you are economically oppressed. They didn't train you to be producers. And now you thought you were free. So the kind of seminars I have is the seminars that help you learn how to make sugar. The kind of work I do is to teach you how to turn cotton into cloth. So that you become free to get your farms back and know how to convert cotton into cloth. And instead of just being consumers, you become producers. This is leadership. So what they do is they don't teach you how to lead. They don't teach you how to operate anything. And then when they leave you, they say, take charge. So here's the African guy in Ghana, you know, the British is gone, and they never teach him how to be a leader like them, and he got power, he got all this country, he got this, but he ain't got no training. And so we have a slave wearing a crown. Woe to the land when a slave becomes king. Words of Solomon. Now what I think is unfair is that they come back later and say, see, you can't rule. I told you, you ain't born to rule. Look how you messed up your country. Corruption, abuse, you know, and this. And what they don't know is that they are the blame. They never trained me. You don't understand what I'm talking about. How can you set me up to fail and then tell me I failed? Oh, come on, clap, you get what I'm talking about. If we gotta get this right, you don't prepare me for failure and then say, I failed. I blame you for my failure because you never trained me to be a leader. It is enough for the teacher to make the student just like him. I guess you could say, my conclusion is, and I say this to all the governments I work with, the failure of third world countries is evidence of the failure of the colonial powers. They must take the blame. And that's why I am traveling every week to a third world country, sitting with parliaments and congresses and heads of state, and I lock them up for 3 days. Why? I got to correct what those leaders never did. I have to somehow solve 200 years of history in 2 days. That's a lot of hard work, but we have to. Your problem is you don't believe you could turn cotton into cloth. And I've come to tell you, you can.
There's a German kid right now, as you and I speaking, subject to mining. But when you look at his continent, wherever he comes from, there's no minerals underground. But the boys and girls are being taught about mining and minerals. Me and you, there was no subject called mining in high school. What mining were you taught in high school? What's the process to start a mine? Just tell me basics of mining. But mining is a strong pillar, probably amongst the strongest pillars of our economy. So that means that there's a child in Germany somewhere that's being prepared, in Asia somewhere that's being prepared to come and run this economy, while your kids are being prepared to come and work for those German kids that are going to come here in future. Because your kids are being taught how to do nonsense, how to label an insect. Listen, our economy in this country, it's agriculture. Our economy in this country, I can even break down what agriculture is. Mining, manufacturing. Why aren't those things primary subjects in primary school, in high school, so that you've got a basic understanding of your own economy? That means some people must come from somewhere to run this economy, because your kids were never taught anything about this economy. So designed to continue systematic slavery and suppress the people of the day and make sure that the future belongs to those who are prepared for it.
My mission is to encourage my brothers and wake up the African peoples to unify our continent, Africa. Since 1963, the hero of the African unity, Kwame Nkrumah, wanted to unify Africa since that time in one state, one government.
It was because of this mission that he stated here that they took him out. He called Kwame Nkrumah a hero because both of them had the same goal, to unify this continent. Now, with reference to this video here, I have this question to ask. Is there any African leader who has this kind of a mission? Is there any? Apart from the 3 AES leaders who are working for the good of their people, is there any other African leader you can quote here that has this kind of a mission? As far as I'm concerned, there is none. Argue with your keyboard. But if you know of any, drop it down here in the comment section. The only person who ever came out boldly to mention anything about unifying this continent is Mr. Julius Malema of South Africa. But we never voted for him because to us, he was not making sense. So, my dear Africans, we need to wake up. The time is now. We need to wake up. Because the only thing that is going to restore our dignity, the only thing that is going to give us strength is the unification of this continent. Thank you all for watching.
Every African should have pride to be an African as a citizen. We're not divided by culture, nor by history, but by borders drawn without our consent. These borders, designed to keep us weak and separate, have denied us our true identity as Africans. It is time to tear down these barriers and declare a new era of unity and belonging. A continental citizenship under the banner of United States of Africa. No longer shall an African be a stranger in their own continent. Whether you're from the highlands of Ethiopia or the shores of Senegal, from the heart of Congo or the deserts of Namibia, you are African first and foremost. Furthermore, having high-speed railway that connects the regions of Africa will enable faster distribution of manufactured goods and eradicate the borders by roads that have been created in our colonial memories. Our uranium has empowered Europe's sustainable energy and forged global superpowers. Our minerals, such as cobalt, are in the mobile phones, laptops, and computers that drive the modern world. Yet Africans with degrees in hand, we find ourselves blocked by borders, their potential stunted by systemic barriers. How is that we have the resources to export to continue to import products we could make ourselves? Our gold holds together the major currencies of this world. Our diamonds are symbols of love exchanged across continents. We have struggled to rebuild our society since we were separated. But when I look at my skin, I believe that whatever brought us together is far stronger than what is pulling us apart. We may be nationalized by different dialects, names, and countries, but we're united by the same principles that governs our way of living. The time is now that we took responsibility for the mess we find ourselves in. We must break free from the cycle of dependency and exploitation. We must industrialize, refine our resources, and create wealth that stays on our continent. We must remove the colonial barricades that have hindered our growth and reclaim the control of our destiny.
White people are serious about power. Black people are serious about money. It's the big difference between us. This is why a white man could be worth $10 billion. You will never know it. A black man will be worth $10 and you think he's worth 10 million. So white people are about control. Black people want to own things. White people want to own situations. Power bucks money every day of the week. When you hear Negroes say the only thing matter is green power, that's a politically uneducated Negro. The question is, who makes the green money? Who has the power to print the money? Power runs this world, not money. Money don't mean nothing, because when you got power, you can get anything you want. You don't even need money if you got power. Think about the bully in lunch, right? You in the lunchroom. You got your bling on, you got your money, your Jordans, right? The bully ain't got nothing. But guess what? He gonna leave the lunchroom with jewelry, Jordans, lunch. Why? Because the person with power can get anything they want. White people are in pursuit of power. Black people in pursuit of things.
The most dangerous situation is in Africa, because of course Africa is absolutely the most important continent on the planet. The most important continent to the planet. And the next most important, and therefore the next most at-risk region, is the Middle East. The Middle East and Africa power the whole global economy. They power everything that makes so-called modern life possible. It's all made possible by the Middle East and Africa. And if the West was an actually civilized civilization, that would mean that peace and stability in the Middle East and in Africa should be of paramount importance. Good relations and harmonious dealings and so on, that would be the priority if they were civilized people. But of course the West is not civilized. And if you have something that they need, if you have something that they want, then they do not see you as a friend. They don't see you as a friend that they want to be close to and have good relations with. They see you as an enemy that they want to subjugate. They see the world in a predator-prey paradigm.
Leadership in government is political power, and political power is an official form of antagonizing the people.
Politics are necessary.
Politics to support the people.
It's not
They have everything. Take that.
a trap.
Only with the past do animals need passports? It's incumbent that in this atomic age of speed, we are shut in and shut off by passport. And free speech, does that exist?
No, you've got it all.
And free enterprise. Can I go into the instrument? Monopoly is the minutes of free.
Why do we spend 14 years at school, kindergarten, junior, middle school, high school, learning things that will be of no value that you can look up on the internet? You know, my daughter had to learn the capitals of all the states and the names of the rivers in Canada going from left to right or west to east or whatever. Why? You can look that up. And anyone who learned those things, if you ask them now, they probably don't remember. And what consequence? But they didn't teach our kids how to balance a checkbook. You know, in fact, checks aren't used that much, but how to balance a bank account or how to figure out how much you've got there or how to make a transaction. The things that I think would be really useful, they don't teach. Because I think what's going on is in school, we're taught skills that you can use in a job to swap time for money. And why are we taught those things? Because school teachers, by definition, have a job. They are already people who swap time for money.
The purpose of the foreign policy in Africa was to reduce the population. So to give aid to countries in Africa, not clean water and schooling and things like that, but contraception and abortion, in order to shrink the population of Africa, because they have great mineral resources there.
That sounds diabolical.
Yes.
That sounds like something conceived in the mind of Margaret Sanger.
Yeah, definitely. And so at the time, Kissinger and those involved with the Carter administration wanted to shrink the population, make sure that the Africans do not develop and do not use the resources for themselves, because we in the States, we need them. There's a concerted effort of foreign powers to control the population of Africa. Africa is a huge continent, could feed thousands more people, but the policies of the West, especially in Europe. For example, between 1990 and the year 2000, the United States, Canada, and Europe contributed about $6 billion in contraceptives, not to help the people, not to give clean water, clean food. That is
not to fight malaria, for example.
No, of course, perish the thought. Never let them die. That's the whole idea. So, in our work in HLI, we denounced this reality to make the Africans aware that they have to defend themselves.
That there will come a time when black people wake up and become intellectually independent enough to think for themselves, as other humans are intellectually independent enough to think for themselves. Then the black man will think like a black man, and he will feel for other black people. And this new thinking and feeling will cause black people to stick together. And then at that point, you'll have a situation where when you attack one black man, you are attacking all black men. And this type of black thinking will cause all black people to stick together. And this type of thinking also will bring an end to the brutality inflicted upon black people by white people. And it is the only thing that will bring an end to it.
Swahili is the most practical language, not because it's big, it was one of the big languages. No, it's not, but it's already being spoken in different countries. So you might say Zulu is big, but it's only spoken in South Africa. But once you go with a language that is already in different countries, then you are not going to start from zero. Hence, we've made a call as
also
EFF.
Very similar to Nguni languages,
Yes.
by the way.
So we have made a call, and you'll find some dialects of Zulu as well in Swahili. So we've made a call to the minister in the past as EFF for Swahili to be taught in schools. And once we start teaching Swahili as South Africa, then we'll be able to call all of African continent to start teaching Swahili. And once we've got a common language that we can use to communicate amongst ourselves and not use colonial languages, the unity of Africa is going to be easy. Now we are divided between the Francophones and the Anglophones. We are divided through colonial languages. Let's push this language and make sure that we've got some starting point. And the most practical thing to do now, which the minister and the president should support if they're interested in uniting African people, is to say, let's teach Swahili and encourage other countries to start teaching Swahili. Then we have canvassed the first ground of dealing with the most basic, which is communication. Because in most cases we agree, but we talk past each other because of language.
So if the president is greedy for money, the people who have the greatest part of his ear are those who are looting. If he is paranoid and extremely insecure because he's fearing people are going to kill him, the people who have his greatest ear are the security forces, security agencies.
Yes.
That is how it goes. But what do you call these Mzungus who end up controlling a president like we are seeing today here with Ruto? What do you call them? Your colonialists? Are they not cartels also?
How is he being controlled by Wazungus?
But we can clearly see.
Able to tell us?
I think the biggest influence to this man's existence is a lady called Whitman. Has she not stood up, right, many times and said, for example, I support the finance bill.
Yes.
We as America support the finance bill because it is allowing American investors to come here without the provision of 30% local ownership. You know, the finance bill was removing that. Right now in law, if you are a foreign entity, you have to have local 30%.
Yeah.
If you're doing certain things. Right? The finance bill was removing that. And she was supportive because now American companies can come. And all of you are not calling her a cartel. How is that for your interest? It is for their interest. But Gen Z got up and rejected that bill. So that has Mezama.
Yes.
So she's also a cartel. Right? So you look like, for little fellows like Oscar Sudi, they're doing peanuts. The bigger cartel is this Muzungu. That is the reality. Right? And those interests, please go back to the Mzungu time of the colonialist. Their mentality, they benefit when we are down, not when we are up. Right? And in order to do it, they always needed a local collaborator. In those old days, you had home guards. The ones who sold us to Americans as slave owners were what? Slave masters, slave owners. Correct? We had our people here, and even in West Africa, that sold us. So we also have today people who are selling us to those high bidders. And one of them is William Samoei Ruto.
Of strong, of power, of dignity, of freedom for Africa. Africa for Africans. The land of Africa is for Africans everywhere. Our land is our land. Everything is our land. My brothers everywhere. You are the master of your continent. You are free in your continent. In this historical day, you are strong now. We are marching to the glory, forward, to the progress. Our brother, my brother Nelson Mandela, my brother Mbeki, forgive my brother Mugabe, forgive the whites. They are poor. You are your master. They want to save you. DPI US, forward.
Great leader, Muammar Gaddafi.
The West has a plan to squeeze even more money out of Africa, and they're calling it tax collectors without borders. And so what they're doing is that they're training hundreds of thousands of tax collectors that aren't loyal to any one country in Africa, and they're providing those as resources so that the African governments can tax their own citizens more effectively. It's basically a 1-2 punch. The first thing that they did through the IMF and the World Bank was they got African countries in a lot of debt, and the cost of servicing that debt started to eat up almost all of the government revenue in many of the African countries. And the Western world came in and said, hey, what if we train tax collectors for you and offer all of our advanced analytical tools that we use to tax people in the Western world? And if you do these tax reforms that we propose, we'll give you even more loans so that you can do your big projects, or maybe you can get that chalet in Switzerland. But unlike the Western world where the tax money might actually find itself circulating in the economy, because they set up these African nations in a lot of debt, the money that they collect from this increased tax revenue is just going to get shot out into the Western world, which is something that even the colonialists of the 1700s couldn't have dreamed would happen. So is there anything that can be done about this? My recommendation is, if you're an African leader, even though it's hard, hit block on the World Bank, hit block on the IMF, and just don't do business with these people in the future. So I'm not trying to be negative. I'm a big believer in Africa, but I certainly want to call out a scheme when I see one. So hopefully if this is of value to you, you'll give me a like and a follow. That really helps out my channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.
What makes African and third world debt different from the American debt? Number one, America is never going to pay its debts. It doesn't have to. Its debts are in its own currency. We can simply print it. The African debt is not in its currency. The African debt is in US dollars. Africa has to earn the US dollars, and the only way it can earn the US dollars is not to be assassinated for growing its own food and becoming independent and doing something that the United States does not like. The principle underlying the foundation of the World Bank is that no country should grow its own food. Africa and the Third World should only grow export crops. To export, in order to have an oversupply of cocoa and other tropical raw materials, to keep down the price, they must buy their grain from the United States or Europe, so that if they do something that we don't like, we can sanction them. We can say, we're going to starve you. We're going to not export any grain to you.
And yet here Trump is, revealing what most of us already knew. The dollar is feeling the heat.
If we lost the dollar as the world currency, I think that would be the equivalent of losing a war. That would make us a third world country, and we can't let it happen. So I use sanctions very powerfully against countries that deserve it.
You might remember two men, Muammar Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein. You know what they had in common? They really weren't fans of the dollar.
Africa has come of age. Therefore, all the processes towards establishing a uniform currency should be revisited with a view to hasten the process. Africa should surpass Europe in the establishment of strong unity and the integration of the African economies, which will translate into the creation of a single market, single central bank, and uniform currency for the continent.
Imagine the most resource-rich continent on Earth, brimming with minerals and oil and diamonds. And its nations would use a gold-backed Pan-African currency. All those treasures outside of the dollar's ecosystem. And that was something that kept Washington up at night. Brought to you straight from then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's hacked inbox.
Gaddafi's government holds 143 tons of gold and a similar amount in silver. During late March 2011, these stocks were moved to Sabha, southwest in the direction of the Libyan border with Niger and Chad, taken from the vaults of the Libyan Central Bank in Tripoli. This gold was accumulated prior to the current rebellion and was intended to be used to establish a pan-African currency based on the Libyan golden dinar.
Well, you know the rest of the story. American Tomahawk cruise missiles rained down on Gaddafi's forces, and by the end of the year, the Libyan leader was no more.
We came, we saw, he died. Did it have anything to do with your visit? No,
By the way,
sure
so
it did.
I think you get the picture. There might be a new boss in the Oval Office, but it turns out he's the same as the old one. Because old habits, well, old habits die hard.
How can we help foster the public-private partnerships, bringing American capital and expertise and standards to Africa so that we can keep exploiting, so that we can exploring where we can get these minerals.
Today, the pound of Britain is one of the strongest currencies. Why? Backed by gold. But when you go to Britain, there is no gold mine. But they've got the biggest gold reserves all over the world. Because they come take it here, they came and stole it here, and they've stored it there. And that's what makes them unique. There is no France. There is no France without Africa. The day Africa liberates itself from France, France will collapse as a country. Because France, it is based on everything African. They don't have anything to offer to themselves. They keep on taking from Africa. So please, let's make sure that we plow the idea of African unity. We may not be there when Africa gets one president, but we'll be the ones who have planted that idea amongst our children, and our children will salute us forever.
No need to steal people's raia's money so that you can get wealthy. This is one of the bedrooms of the former president Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi's houses, one of his houses. Look, so beautiful. Big, but where's the owner? Dead, Kuf dead. This is the washroom. Just check at the bathtub. The washroom, so big. Private office, ndani ya bedroom. Then you still steal people's money to get rich, and then you die, you leave it here.
No matter how bad a man is, he can always serve as a good example of a bad man. That's what I was taught when I was doing journalism.
Wacheni tu mimi niseme na mapema. Ndio kama kuna list na andiko mniweke kwa list. I can't wait to reject Finance Bill 2025. I can't wait because I know it will be something absurd. It will be something mental. I can't wait. Mniweke kwa list jameni. List ya reject.
Majenzi mko? Kazi mnafanya kwa mtandao ni mzuri sana. Na tunapongeza nyinyi. Na muendelee. Mtaendelea. Lakini mtandao peke yake haitoshi. Tunataka mjiandikishe kama wapiga kura. Wale watu ambaye watakomboa Kenya hii, wenye kuamua Kenya itaongozwa namna gani, ni hao majenzi wetu mwaka wa 2027. Lakini hamwezi amua Kenya itakaa namna gani kwa simu peke yake. Lazima mchukue vitambulisho, lazima mjiandikishe kama wapiga kura. Siku hiyo ikifika muamuke saa 9, muungane na sisi na wengine, tuende pale kwa debe, tutafute uongozi wa maana ambaye utaheshimu wa Kenya, utaheshimu demokrasia na utakubali kufanyia kila mtu maendeleo. Tumekubaliana majenzi?
Now, why do you want Ruto gone?
We want Ruto gone because he is killing innocent people. He's wanting to pass the Finance Bill 2024. He's putting tax on sanitary products that girls can't even buy. He can't go to school. He's corrupt. He's taking the money. He needs to go.
Yes.
Get out. If you're going to raise anything, start with your hairline.
Nice.
Control, Alt, Delete, Ruto. The drunk did better than you. Drunkard did better than you.
Mungu yetu itoe Ruto Kenya, hata kama angalau na jali. Sisi Kenya tumechoka na Ruto, maisha imetuharibikia, analipisha mpaka sodo ya wamama. Pure kabisa Ruto. We don't like you, go home. Sasa tafuta kiongozi ambaye anapenda mwananchi na anapenda kijana kama.
They want to be described as honorable even when they are horrible. They acquire things which they have not worked for. They promise us things that they know they will never deliver. And there is no shortage of such men and women in the African continent.
Now the next election, yes. Unajua hawa ndio watakuwa nasema fagia wote ama mtasema namna gani? This generation, yes, they use their might because they didn't vote. The largest vote in the last election.
You like me, why them a fight me. You like me, chewing a bone, a bite it. You like me, chewing a bite it. Don't like, how I am. When I trust them, even if we put them. When I touch them, you find not touch them. When I touch them, not them, not them, in fan, I'm missing your